Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, childrens of all ages, Nindies, Nintendo Switch owners, everybody in general, citizens of the internet, to Devlog to finish. This is how to make level design, episode 9 deluxe edition. Just like, you know, Mario Kart 8 is a deluxe edition, even though it's not a brand new game. Gotta love Nintendo. As usual, I have the community notes, and I also have level design. This is going to be a redo deluxe edition because sometimes I work with people and I keep the videos unlisted. I share it with them, but I don't necessarily share it with the public. So here we go. Yes, Climate Jam 2018. It didn't happen, but I'm still working on it. I'll talk about that a little later. I want to give a quick shout out to Katie from Prey Interactive. She is working on a brand new game. If you're not familiar with Prey Interactive or Katie's work, she has been working for like a good set of years in the indie game scene. She's worked for companies, education companies, and she's really making a name for herself as a developer. And it's just great to watch her progress because you are seeing a independent developer who's starting from nothing and actually building a successful career and company. Her game, which I'm very excited about, very excited because she's going to try 3D for the first time. I'm not saying that 2D is bad, but I'm glad to see her being able to show that she can actually develop in 3D as well for her portfolio. It will be a voxel game, as you can see right here. I do have a video of me testing her game, which will be great to see me test her game because, you know, with her permission, you can see how game testing works so that you can maybe test other people's games for fun and for free, like I am for Katie, and or know what to ask for or how to train people to test your games. That would be a great idea. Back to the old play it forward idea of like we play each other's games and give each other feedback. Now the thing about this is unfortunately Katie's very shy because it's very bare bones. It's really just a 2D game at start. The 3D has not been added yet. So I asked her and she said, no, please don't share your first video, but I'm going to give you another build later next week, and maybe you can show that build because it'll have more features, so forth and so on. Can't wait. Mars Leader 88, thanks for joining us. He gave me this, I don't want to say crazy story, but it's an interesting story of how he is here for weeks, months. He lives in Alaska. You can see in the comments like a video or 2 videos ago. But his game development stuff and his family is way over here. So he goes way over here to some excluded place, and then eventually he gets a little bit of time with his family and his rig for like 6 months, so forth and so on. It's a story I can relate to because my life has also gotten in the way. This is the reason why I couldn't finish the game. I was leaving my old job. If you haven't worked a government job, there's a lot of legal stuff if you leave related to your retirement, so forth and so on. It's weeks of meetings and procedures. I still have the online certification that ironically was for this job, but luckily that will help me with the new job I got. Yay, I got a new job. But by doing all this, I could not hit the game deadline. It was just falling off. And I also got another job, but it's going to be part-time. It's for an online company called Data ABC. If you've been listening, this could be good. If you come from an English-speaking country, sorry guys, I know a lot of you don't, but if you do come from like Canada, the United States, UK, New Zealand, Australia, any of those places, you could work an online job like this, and if you really like it, do it full-time, and then game develop on the side. I myself don't want to do online teaching all the time. I have 2 jobs, and if I can work out a good schedule, I can go back to game developing at least 1 to 3 hours every day, every other day, maybe 6 hours on the weekend. It will make me happy, and I could hopefully make money eventually as an independent developer. That is the goal, of course. Now we have new subscribers. Francesca Lafuli, I hope I said that right. Ginger Rageous, I love that. It's like outrageous. Beautiful name. And Saeed, I'm just giving a shout out to because thanks to him in the Construct community of all things, we're talking about Blender and how to render it into 2D to 3D. Just as a review from other videos, again, I'm looking at about 96 animations that I have to go from 3D and turn them into 2D for the current game I'm working with, Securus, the Ruben man. I had this just as a reference point. Originally, I thought you could do like a 3D spin to get all these angles, and that could still be possible, but I realized you'd probably just do like one angle and then take a frame of a run or a walk, because spinning it 360 a bunch of times would just be a lot of work for no reason. Now the other thing too is game making can be hard, but it's fun if you don't do it alone. Let me show you. So even though I have not been making videos, I have been talking to people. And when I mean people, one person. Indy38. Dude, I don't know your real name anymore. I'm so sorry. But anyway, Indy38 and me have been chatting for like 8 weeks in an 8-week time span. We missed a couple meetings because we get busy sometimes with life. And this is his first Blender character. Yes, I'm not joking. This is his first time using Blender to make a character. And what's been great is by encouraging him and just being as supportive as I can be about, the process, he now in turn is helping me make better characters by giving me insights about how to make better shoulders, rendering, so forth and so on. It's really cool. Now I know it's kind of a cheat because he actually is a very skilled modeler and very skilled modeler in Blender. So it was a logical leap that why couldn't he then make figures? So this is his earlier stuff. It's really cool. Everything all around is just really great. How this has become a very supportive thing between me and Indy38. But we do want to branch out. So I do now have a Discord channel. And I'm terrible at Discord because I'm part of all these communities, but I can't check in enough. I mean, I get it. Like, Discord is a wonderful way to connect to people, but to stay connected is a lot of time and a lot of work. However, I want to open this up to anyone who comes here, just anybody in general. And the idea is I want to create a support group. I've always wanted to create a support group for independent game developers, beginning game developers, hobbyist game developers, just anyone who needs moral support, help with research, game testing, whatever, to talk about games and making games for like an hour to 3 hours a week. And why do I say that? Because Twist, hey man, he's over here. I do want to start doing programming. So right now, ideally between Indy38 and his stuff, we talk about Blender and art stuff. I do want to open maybe another hour to 2 hours to talk about programming, specifically in Godot 3, because I'm doing this stuff for free. Godot 3 is free. Everything for free right now is great because, maybe eventually somebody can start making money. Now, our times are this. It is 10 o'clock a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, 11 o'clock p.m. South Korean time for me. This was the last meeting, was Friday, August 2018, and our next meeting will be next Friday. That's the goal. The time zone converter is here. I'll put a link here to the Discord. The time zone converter will be under it. I've been using this for years. It just seems to be the best service. And what we have here is we have Tampa, Florida, USA. Okay, 10 o'clock, Seoul, South Korea. I plan to do a window of 3 hours. And so again, the first, hour and a half, we'll be talking about art and Blender more than likely. And then another half an hour to an hour at looking at how to program and make games in Godot 3, if not some other engines. I'm familiar with Construct 2, and I'm also interested in looking at the Armory engine, as the Armory engine takes Blender and makes it into a game engine, essentially. So that might be something I want to play around with in the future, especially since I'm doing more 3D stuff. As you can see here, this was the first sketch. This should be a review for some people that have been following the channel. Thank you, subscribers. And this is where we're at right now in the process. I am trying to figure out rendering. This is a Blender render. This is a Cycles render. Cycles render overheated my computer and it crashed it. That could be my fault because I need to check if I've set the render settings to the graphics card, which is not the best. I'm going to need a new graphics card. Or if it was the fact that it was rendering probably on the CPU and that's what overheated the system and caused it to shut down. As you can see here, I like this, but I'm probably now going to take the time to make a more friendlier, cuter character as originally is here without nice shield. And what this is looking like, this will be now this character right here because I don't want to waste any time and this character is already rigged. So that is the goal right here. And these are the two characters that will be the hardest as they have actual limbs. All the other characters here are floating characters, so that makes animation so sweet. We have 1, 2, 3 done, but we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess 8 or 9. I mean, these could be different colors. So let's say 8. This should be relatively easy to finish the art. And thanks to Sakuras, the coding is done. So all that needs to be done is the art, put the two together, and we have a actual working game. Problem is how to render consistent ping. So again, I'm dealing with render issues. Jeremy, da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. I don't know if you're listening to this. I don't know if you can point me in the right direction or just type and help me. I'm trying to figure out how to make good 300 DPI squares so I can put that in the Godot 3 animation engine, the 2D engine, and then play around with the new 2D features. That's the goal. Finally, how to make level designs. If you skipped and hit that timestamp and you're here right now, I really hope you look at the community notes because I thought there's a lot of fun stuff going on within the small community that I'm a part of right now. All this stuff is fair use for education, just in case you didn't know. And I could not find in the GDC Vault, the Game Developer Conference Vault, I could not find it in the GDC Vault, this talk about Disneyland. Maybe because it's a talk about Disneyland. And the guy who was giving the talk was amazing because he said the great thing about Disneyland and level design is, one, it's an asymmetrical map. But in an asymmetrical map, what you really want to do, asymmetrical meaning, it's like the same, right? Is you want to make it where the player comes in and they never feel trapped or stuck. And in Disneyland, visited that park hundreds of times, and I still want to go, is this whole idea that you never feel stuck. You could always walk in like a circle, and every area, there's always a bridge or there's always some way to get to another part of it. You're never stuck. The other way you make a player, number 2, not feel stuck. Number 2, the second thing that's important about designing a level or making a level is landmarks. The landmarks help separate each area of the map and player experience. And you want to have enough of these landmarks, these buildings, these statues, these decorations that really tell you that you're in a specific part of this imagined world. And Disneyland just did a wonderful job of this, making a physical fantasy space that feels like it's a bunch of these different places. So, looking at one of my favorite games, Halo Wars, number 1. Miss my friends, because none of them play Halo Wars 2, and they all grew up. I'm so sad. Sorry, nostalgia. We have 1, 2, 3. These are where the players actually spawn. So player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4, player 5, player 6. Each one of these areas is a spawn point. You get a vehicle, and you take that vehicle, and you explore this world. And again, if you notice, it's asymmetrical, so you're never really stuck, which is really cool in the beginning of the map. And there's a fog of war. If you haven't played the game, you go through the fog and you actually discover new parts of the map as you play it. Now, the thing about this is that it is balanced. 1, 2, 3, we have 3 players team over here. We have another 3-player team right here. But as you can tell, the architecture, the landmarks are a little different. So this right here is more like buildings like of a US military or a military, right? Modern military buildings, and right here is jungle and forests. So again, you feel like you're in different parts of the area, even though the map is asymmetrical and balanced. Keep that in mind. This is one of my favorite other games from that generation, which was Gears of War 1. They took this map and put it, I think, in every Gears of War. Gears of War 1, Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, Gears of War 4. Escalation is basically like an escalator. One team starts here and has to climb up through these stairs like an escalator, through these stairs to the other team and fight him. Vice versa, the other team spawns here and then goes downstairs to fight this other team. Notice, even though it's an upstairs, downstairs kind of issue, it is again an asymmetrical map, right? So players, again, don't necessarily feel stuck. Actually, this is the worst area. I hate this. Like, why did they even have this? This is like an additional spawn point, but you do feel stuck. It's like just dumb. It's just dumb. I don't think you can even shoot over the edge. I think you're just stuck there. It's horrible. Anyway, coming back up to this. The point, though, here is, again, we have number 1, asymmetrical map. Number 2, we have different statues, gardens, different landmarks that tell the player where they're at. And the thing is about cover-based shooters, one mechanic that I've been watching a lot of critiques is the problem with cover-based shooters is that you're just stuck in cover and you're just waiting there. And the good thing about having nice things to look at is you don't feel bored seeing, the trees move, looking at the lighting, so forth and so on. Even if you're focused on just shooting the other player, it's nice to have these other things to give the world a feeling, right? Again, the landmarks give a world a setting, a feeling to the player. Also, just FYI, especially in a team game, you can say you can call things out like, I'm in the statue, okay, I'm moving to the flower. And then we used to do that when we played this game, so you knew exactly where people were at. Or like you're at statue and like, there's a guy coming up from flower. What? Okay, I'm at statue. And you just, all around fun. Sorry. Anyway, the other game that I really love, that actually this is a great example of procedural generation, is Enter the Gungeon. Somehow Enter the Gungeon creates these non-asymmetrical maps, but they feel asymmetrical in the sense that you can actually go through these areas and like you can go back and forth between the areas. Let me do this a little slowly. So I can go to this room, to this room, to this room, and if I cleared these rooms, I can go back anytime without any penalty. So I'm always like, any room that I open and I clear can stay clear. As far as I know, the enemies don't respawn, which is great because once I clear a room, it's like a little trophy reward that I've actually cleared that room, and I can actually start looking for extra treasures, money, so forth and so on. Now, the other thing before I move on to that other game, oopsie, press the button, is that each one of these rooms is actually made with what looks like handcrafted pixel art. So your landmarks look great. Each room seems to be handcrafted, even though it's procedurally generated. The Binding of Isaac, boy, this game is depressing. I've never played it, but I have studied this a lot, because who wouldn't study this after that indie game movie? The top levels, as you can see here, this is the overworld map, is basically just rooms stuck together. I don't know if it's procedurally generated, but this should be really easy to program for procedural generation, right? It's not even nearly as complicated as this. And the thing is that each room basically has an entrance. Sometimes it has like 4 entrances, but this one has a 1 entrance. Sometimes they're hidden entrances. Sometimes you can blow stuff up. As far as I know, again, I have not played this game myself. The other thing too is that we have landmarks here, and these landmarks actually work like Gears of War cover. You don't have to crouch behind them, but enemies have to move around them, so forth and so on. It's all around great. As you can tell here though, is that the perspective, there's 2 perspectives. The rock and these characters are in one perspective, and the other perspective is an overhead perspective. This is a trick, a stylistic trick of using perspective in these type of overtop 2D games. The grandfather of all these, or the granddaddy of all these types of games, obviously is Zelda. And as you can see, Zelda looks very similar to the Binding of Isaac in the level over map leveling of their dungeons, and also here when we look at the walls, which are also again not in perspective. They don't match. And what's funny is that even worse, I know it was back in the day, these rocks match, but you can see here that these little decorations, cover systems, whatever, obstacles basically don't match the perspective. There's just 2 perspective going on. It's okay. Even the enemies, little blob, look. Totally different. Anyway, so again, this is an overmap. We have usually 1 to 4 doors. Usually it's not 4 doors, like 3 or 4. I used to play this game a lot when I was a kid. And what's great about this is you don't feel stuck again. Which, one of the small complaints I had in level design was the mini bosses with these dragons. I'm like, I hated being trapped. I hated going here and being trapped. Now, I know this was a choice to take away that freedom, so the player does feel claustrophobic, does feel trapped in this battle. More so, adding to it, the effect aesthetically is that all the landmarks here are making an arrow that points you to the door you have to open. So it makes you feel, by level design, you have to get to this door and you have to kill this dragon. There's no way around this situation. The other thing too is related to gameplay wise, and one of the reasons I never liked it is it does kind of switch the gameplay versus here where I could actually go around. I could fight this enemy here or go around it. I had options to move around the enemy. Here, because I don't have those options, it's a very left to right battle. It almost feels like a platformer at this point, where instead of a jump, I'm just going up and down ladders. Again, this is a masterful way to change the gameplay, but myself, I was never a fan of it. So I want to kind of keep gameplay mechanics consistent yet challenging. So talking to Securus about the game that he did that were kind of basically I'm just doing a reskin job. He had this thing about talking about gateways, again the same way. Just like Zelda and other games like Binding of Isaac, do gateways. We have the same way. The other thing too is talking about, have to design for boundaries. So just considering all that. Finally, the other thing is that, I have to render, and I'm going to do this in orthography. I can't even say it. Orthographical view. Anyway, the F5 key, number key 5 view. I can't say that word right now. I don't know why. And the idea here is I'm going to render them out in Blender. Make these tile maps about maybe 150 DPI. I might make them a smaller DPI so they're just a little blurry. That way that the characters are sharper and they stand out from the background. At least that's the goal as I make the tile map. But looking at this and looking at this, the big thing you have to really draw, and I love physically drawing things when I can, with cheap materials, okay? Pen, paper, these are my kids' markers, my daughter's markers, because I hate buying expensive stuff that I don't use. I have expensive markers I never use, and they're going bad because they're saying, oh, they're too expensive, I gotta save them. This is ridiculous. Anyway, this is what I drew out, and the idea here is, do you use code or you make assets? So yes, we've got 3 different areas that are very distinct that have 3 different colors. One is an ice area, so it's got more of this blue icy feel. The other one's a red area. The other one is like a neutral area where you'll see both of these enemy types. Now the thing about this is that we can use code. One of the other projects I was working for, the last Ludum Dare game jam, that last game jam, we did have a coder who changed my art and used code to basically change the color of the images, which that works. However, the problem with that is that would just make the colors different. you still have to make assets to make the landmarks, make the things that make each one of these places unique from the other, or the game will visually feel bland to the player, or it will just look kind of cheap. Now that we have the time to really, at least for me, I mean the coding is pretty much done, to make the assets for these levels, I do want to kind of do both. I want to take the basic aesthetics of what this compound is and use code to basically just change the base colors, but I do want to make certain certain assets that you'll only find in each one of these areas, and that will make the player feel like they're in a different area, just like we've seen in the other things we've studied in this video. Finally, there'll be one last level which I didn't draw out, which is simply a entry level to the game, where you basically see a spaceship land and you get out of it and then you enter this compound. It'd be pretty cool. Now that is it. I want to just give a thank you to everybody, all the 200 plus subscribers. You've really made this worth it right now. Again, I'm doing all this to help other people, so I'm glad this is actually helping other people. If you have any questions, comments, please put them below. If you're new to the video, you know what to do. Hit that like or subscribe button, and we're a growing channel, so I can still definitely help others and get other people, I hope, if we build this community right, to help each other in this community play, test, and develop everybody's games and grow together. It's going to be great. Insert catchy phrase here. I'll see you guys in the next one. And gals, of course. Gotta be guys and gals. Bye.